Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Dodoresque. Dodoresque is brought to you by Tetrahedron Games. It's for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and games range anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. In Dodoresque, you take on the role of a dodo, trying to build the ultimate, most beautiful nest in the jungle. And along the way, you have to collect different types of materials. You have your basic, you have your padding, and then some sort of decorative material to round out your perfect nest. And in the end, whoever has the most beautiful, most ultimate nest of the jungle will win. Now, along the way, you're going to be playing action cards from your hand in order to acquire better nest materials to give you more points at the end of the game. Also, you're going to have to be trying to avoid injury along the way. It's a dangerous place, this jungle, after all. So you want to make sure your dodo has the most health left at the end of the game, because that will also give you more points. Alright, so setup is pretty straightforward in this game. You're going to take the action cards and the material cards and separate them into their 3 separate decks. These decks represent kind of the easy, medium, and hard levels of the jungle. Now, you're going to give each player 2 cards from the easy and 1 card from the medium level deck, and they will pick 2 of these cards and then put 1 card aside to be part of the exchange deck. This exchange deck will be shuffled up, and the cards will be flipped face up, except for the last one, which is kept face down. Then each player will receive their character card, which happens to also be their health tracker. Now, on your turn, there are 3 possible actions you might perform. However, you can only perform 2 actions, and you cannot repeat any one action twice. So, the first thing we're going to look at is going on an adventure. And what that entails is looking at the 3 decks in the middle of the table and flipping over 1 card from one of them. Now, again, those decks represent kind of moving through the jungle, the easier to the more difficult. And again, the more difficult the card, the bigger the reward potentially. So there are 2 different types of cards that might show up. An action card might show up, which if it does, that's just going to go directly to your hand. But if a materials card shows up, then you need to look at the icon, the action icon in the top right corner. And based on that icon will dictate what kind of action card you need to play against it in order to acquire it to your hand. And there's all kinds of different things, possibilities here. There's also a secondary icon to look for. So if there is an X through that icon, then if you can't use a particular action to achieve that card, then it's just going to get discarded. However, if there's a starburst, that is damage. And if you cannot use an action card to pull it into your hand again, then you're going to receive damage, and that's when you go to your handy little card that shows your damage levels on your character. And you're going to rotate it 90 degrees to show that you've taken damage. And again, this is something you need to keep an eye on, so balancing the fact that you're going from the easier cards to the more difficult, you have to make some wise choices here. Another possible action you could take is nest building, and this is pretty much the core of what you're trying to do in the game. So you are going to be building 2 rows, and in each row you're going to have the basic, the padding, and the decorative types of materials. And these can be mixed and matched however you need to based on the different types of areas. But you do get bonuses at the end of the game if you are able to match the area and have all those different types of materials as well. So again, it doesn't matter what order these are in your particular 2 rows, but you do need to have 1 of each type of material. And if you get a better material in your hand, you can swap or exchange, and the card you exchange with just gets discarded. So as an example here, you can see I've totally fleshed out my nest, and my top row has all Savannah cards. And what's going to happen at the end of the game, if I maintain that, is that I'll total up the points and times it by 2. However, my bottom row here has a mixture of terrain types. Even though I have all the right materials all throughout the nest, the mixture of terrain types will only allow me to get the face value of all the cards combined. And the third action you might perform on your turn is the exchange. The exchange is where dodos go to socialize, basically. They're trading goods in and out of this deck. So these decks can also hold action cards or material cards, it doesn't matter. So the way it works is that you are going to look for something, obviously, that will help you out. You're going to grab either a face-up card or a face-down card from that deck. Now, you have to replace that though with something from your hand, and all the cards in the exchange deck are going to move to the right, and your new card will come out face down. And so the game comes to an end when one of two things happens. Either one of the adventure decks empties out completely, or a Dodo is so injured that it can no longer perform any nest building actions. Each Dodo only has 3 hit points, so to say, so you have to be very careful as you adventure through this jungle. And of course, the Dodo with the most points, the best nest, will win the game. Again, keeping certain things in mind. If you have the same terrain types, it's going to give you double the points. And there's even special cards that give you extra bonus points at the end of the game. So there's lots of things to balance here. Now, there's a couple of things we didn't talk about. There's a lot of different icons in this game, and there's things that allow special cards that allow you to like steal from another player, take double actions, lots of different things like that. So you do have quite a bit of variance as you play, and different cards come into your hand. All right, folks, so that was a look at Dodoresque Jungle Fever, which was actually kickstarted last year. Now, there's a second version coming to Kickstarter. It is Dodoresque Cherry Blossom, which is going to encompass all kinds of new characters, stories, illustration, and new actions. Both games are going to be standalone. However, you can combine both to be a much larger game, allowing up to 8 players. But ultimately, folks, if this looks like a game that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.